What a great time to be sick. Fallout 76 is a very interesting game, and before I went into the full game, I wanted to give this game a fair shot. I wanted to put all my existing thoughts behind me, and I wanted there to be a chance I would love this game. Short story short, I pretty much hate this game. But before I shit on this game, I want to talk about the few things I liked. There's like 2 things. The first thing I really liked about this game is just how it looks. And I don't mean graphically, because the textures still look the same, and sometimes they're just terrible looking. But the thing that stands out so much about this game are the colors. Everything is just so vibrant. The colors really pop. And when you compare this to the other color palettes of the Fallouts, those games are just grays, browns, and blacks. But this game has genuine color to it. The reds, orange, greens, they all look so great. And the lighting as well is perfect. And surprisingly, all these colors work well with the nature of the game. And I wish the other Fallouts looked like this. I also want to talk about the music. The music choices in this game are brilliant. That's the case with most of the Fallout games. And goddamn, if the radio was not in this game, I wouldn't even have played for the amount of time I did. The music just kept me from going insane. And also, the main theme of this game is amazing.
Country roads. I hear a voice in the morning, now she calls me. The radio reminds me of my...
But yeah, this is pretty much all I got for the positives. Let me first talk about the most obvious thing. That would be the story. This is the laziest excuse of a story I've ever seen in a video game. There basically isn't a story. There's no fun characters to meet in the world. There's no main goal. It's just nothing. And I said going into this game I didn't want another fetch quest, but what I got was something way worse. The main story of this game is delivered through audio logs and notes. And there seems to be this endless cycle of receiving an audio log that leads you to another audio log. And it just keeps going on. And it's just walking from point A to point B. And I don't even give a shit about what these people are saying in the audio logs. Now there's this one rule in most stories. Show, don't tell. In this game does the complete opposite. They tell you about all these cool events, but you're just listening to them through audio logs. And it's just so goddamn boring. And in result of this, the world just feels empty. The map is just gigantic. And there are some interesting locations within it, but they don't give you any reason to go exploring. In every moment it was available to me, I used fast travel. And when I compare it to a recent game I played, Red Dead Redemption 2, I didn't fast travel once because I enjoyed going out and taking the journey myself. But in this game, it's unbelievably boring. And I really wish I could have explored more of this map, but I just couldn't come up with any reason to do so. And I can honestly tell this map has a lot more passion than Fallout 4's map, but it ends up being a boring walking sim. Now the gameplay has never been that great in the Fallout games, but I never noticed it felt this bad until now. On console, this game feels like shit to play. In the exact moment I noticed it was this bad was my first PvP encounter. Now with most multiplayer shooters, you need the gameplay to be smooth and responsive, but in Fallout 76 it's the complete opposite. It's a painful, slow, clunky mess. Games like Overwatch and even Call of Duty, the reason why they're so successful is because the games feel good to play, but in this game it just doesn't. And the new VAT system is terrible. I think they should have scrapped it altogether, because whatever the fuck this is takes all the fun out of VATs in the first place. Everything about the gameplay makes this game feel like it came out 10 years ago. Everything about the gameplay is just so mediocre, and even the perks and builds themselves are just watered down. And it also feels like your levels don't matter at all. I was killing enemies 3-4 times my level with ease, and just everything about the gameplay is so clunky, and it just didn't feel good to play. I've never played an online game that felt this empty. I barely encountered other players, and when I did, it was so shallow and nothing. And that first spark of playing Fallout with another person comes and goes immediately. It loses that charm so quick. And this game being online only has caused a lot of problems for me. I've been disconnected 3 times while making a character. I've also been disconnected before I even logged into the game. And of course, this being a Bethesda game, there's so many bugs and glitches everywhere, and you have to be connected to the internet at all times, and you have to have PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live to even play the game. There's no real solo experience in this game. I've had 2 completely different experiences with this game, one being solo and the other with a friend. And when I played this game by myself, it was just miserable. Every second of my playtime by myself, I felt like I wanted to go play something else. But with a friend, it gets so much better. But me saying the game is more fun with friends isn't really saying much. I believe you can have fun with pretty much any game with a friend. I've had fun with Roblox Fortnite, so I just think that's a very mute point. But it's still the case. If you're playing this game with a full group, I could see it being great. But when you're by yourself, it's terrible. Next, I want to talk about the enemies. There's so much potential here, but they ruined it. There are completely unique enemies in this game, and the new ones are amazing. But the main problem is, you barely encounter them. A good 70% of the enemies you fight in this game will be the Scorched, and they are the most boring and lazy enemy design I've ever seen. They're just fucking zombies, and you fight so many of them, and they don't say anything. There's no character to them. Occasionally they will shoot at you, or most of the time they'll just run at you aimlessly, and it's so boring. And I wouldn't have a problem with this if this wasn't most of the enemies. And as I said, the newer enemies that they added are great. And there's also a huge flaw with the enemies. They respawn constantly, and sometimes enemies appear out of thin air, and you can physically watch them respawn. And when you fight the enemies, it just feels like filler. Most of the enemy placement just feels bad, and the enemies are so easy to take down. So what Bethesda did to amp the difficulty is just throw more enemies at you. It's such a sorry excuse for difficulty. I also want to talk about the loot you get from the enemies, and this shit is so mundane. All the loot just feels so unimportant, and this game just turns into this grind, and it's just not fun to do. You walk to a location, kill a bunch of enemies there, loot them, and this cycle just constantly repeats. And then you have the most brain dead AI I've ever seen. Sometimes they don't even comprehend that you're standing right in front of them. It's just a fucking mess. In conclusion, this game feels like nothing. It's not a terrible game, it's not even a decent game. It's just meh. And I even have a little theory about this game. I feel like this game is just filler, and I think it was only made to give us something before Elder Scrolls 6. Most good games feel like they should have been made, but this just doesn't. Usually before I make a video about a game, I like to pour a lot of time into it. For example, Red Dead 2, I at least put 70 hours into that. Spider-Man easily 30, but I physically can't play this game anymore. I put about 8 hours into it, and that's as much as I'm willing to do. It's just not fun for me to play. And especially playing this right after Red Dead Redemption 2, this game just fails to compete in any way. And I don't see myself playing this game after this. Every time I boot it up, I'd rather just play something better. Even Fallout 4. I really wanted to continue playing, but I just fucking can't. So think of this less as a review, but more of an impressions of the game. And I really do think this says a lot. Most games I'm willing to play all the way through, and especially if I'm doing a video about it. So hopefully this was decent enough. I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on it, especially if you played it a lot longer than I did. So far I've looked into a lot of people's thoughts on the game, and it's not doing so good, and I think it deserves it. This game doesn't feel like any passion was put into it. It just feels like a rushed game. But anyway, tell me if you enjoyed the video. I also have a Twitter, so follow me on there. I also have a Discord server, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.